Hello and welcome to another day of English 2. I'm your online teacher, Miss Bear. We are starting a new unit today, and this is from the National Writing Project's site, and we'll get into that in a second, about lab-grown meat. Today, I'm going to introduce you to who the National Writing Project is and a little bit about their work, and then we're going to dig straight in and just get started with this unit. You will be doing a quick write, so make sure you've got your paper and pencil ready. So let's talk about who National Writing Project is first. So National Writing Project is an organization, it's really a network of teachers who work together to develop these innovative programming that's focused on argument writing for what they call civic engagement. National Writing Project has this belief that students should be ready for college, career, and community so that they work with teacher leaders to develop this work. Now, interested teachers who want to know more about National Writing Project can go to the National Writing Project website at nwp.org, and then there is a Find a Site, and that will bring you to the map that you see on your screen, and you can find a location that meets your needs. Now, I've been through this National Writing Project training. I've actually been through the original training and then the advanced training, and so that qualifies me to teach this unit. And so I'm going to be teaching the unit, but your teacher who's in your classroom, they may want more information so that they become qualified to not only teach this unit, but teach other teachers the process of National Writing Project. So, like I promised, let's dig right in. I want to know what your thoughts are first and foremost. What do you think about the term lab-grown meat? And so I'm going to give you 5 minutes, and I want you to write for the entire 5 minutes. The question says, what are your initial thoughts when you hear the topic lab-grown meat? We're going to pause here, give you 5 minutes, and then we'll come back together as a whole class. All right, great job. I can't wait for you to share those thoughts with me and with your class and with your teacher, but we're going to hold that thought for right now. We're going to, in this unit, read 4 different texts, and the texts are behind me on the board. The first one is going to be interesting facts about artificial meat. We're going to read Designing Tomorrow's Burger. We're going to read The Truth About Lab-Grown Meat, and then another article called From Lab to Table, Will Cell Cultured Meat Win Over Americans? And as we read each of these articles, you are going to be asked to do a different process of writing that we call layering. So with each article, we're going to add an layer to your writing, and I'm going to give you some sentence stems that will help you layer that writing. So you have those initial thoughts, but do you really know anything about lab-grown meat? Where does it come from? How is it made? How is it originated? What is the process of it? You're going to learn all of that in this unit, and I can't wait to read some of your writing, because some of you are going to have some really strong opinions. This first article that we're going to dig into is not really an article. It's called Interesting Facts About Artificial Meat, and this will be linked in your YouTube description, a link to this article. But if you look at it on your screen, it doesn't really look like an article. This is what we call a hybrid article. So it has a little bit of text, and then it goes into what we call an infographic. An infographic is exactly what it said. It is a graphic that gives you information. You will see some text that goes along with that information, but mostly it is pictures and diagrams and statistics and lots of data that you can get from the reading part of your text. So infographics are a little bit different. You need to know how to read an infographic. So we're going to talk about that today. So let's look at the first part of this article, and we're just reading today. We're not going to be doing a lot of annotations just yet. We're just getting a little bit more information about what lab-grown meat is. So grab your article and read along with me. The 5 major meat-producing countries, namely China, USA, Brazil, France, and Germany, along with the minor ones, are not being able to meet the growing demand for meat. Statistics show that the average per capita consumption of meat worldwide is 42 kilograms. The antibiotics used for livestock farming are beginning to prove hazardous to human health. Diseases like swine flu and bird flu are taking epidemic forms every now and then too. The recorded stats say that there occur 2.7 million human deaths every year due to diseases from animals. Besides, livestock farming is not environment friendly. It uses a lot of energy and causes deforestation, air pollution, and land degradation. This is the point at which we look at artificial meat. Artificial or lab-grown meat uses 55% of less energy, causes 95% less greenhouse gas emissions, and uses 98% less land for the work. The world's first artificial meat burger was tested in London on August of 2013. Learn more facts about artificial meat in this infographic. And so you've got a little bit about why. Why do we have a need for lab-grown meat? And so I want you to be thinking about that and thinking about whether or not you agree with the reasoning behind why we are now growing meat in a lab. So think about that. And then let's look at this infographic. So kind of have that in the back of your head. And let's look at the infographic. So the very top part says artificial meat, the whys and the hows. So when you look at this article, the very first part of this infographic, it says the demand for meat for a growing global population is expected to rise above the supply for it. So we have that idea of supply and demand, all right? Then the next bullet point says 70% of the world population is partially or completely dependent on livestock for their livelihood and food security. The next bullet point says people eat less than 250 million tons of meat annually worldwide. And then I want you to look at this meat production world stats. So you can see from 2007 until 2011, the production of meat did not change very much. In millions of tons, you're looking at about 20 million tons, which isn't a huge number. But then you look at the estimation for the future. And in 2050, we're looking at almost doubling that from 2007. And that's because of the world population, which you will see over here in this other side, which is the second part of your infographic. So the 5 major meat producing countries, you've got China, the US, Brazil, France, and Germany. Why do you think China produces, it looks like 53,747 metric tons of meat, where the US is 35,085 tons? That is more, that's about 20,000 tons more. Why do you think China would produce that much more than the US? Those are some great answers, and you're right. China does have a much larger population than the United States. But when you look at Brazil, Brazil produces less than half of what the US produces. So why do you think that is? Well, I don't know. Honestly, I don't know what the population difference from Brazil to the US is, but that's absolutely some great thoughts and something for you to look into a little bit further. So the average consumption of meat, guys, in America, we consume more meat per person than any other country in the world. And Australia is right underneath us, and then France, UK, and Japan. Notice that the Chinese, who are producing the majority of the meat in the world, they're not consuming it. That makes you wonder, why are they not consuming as much as these other countries? So definitely something to be thinking about as you look through this infographic. Next, let's look at those health risks. What are the health risks associated with the meat and the antibiotics? So here they give you two statistics. 70% of the antibiotics used on livestock are posing serious threat to public health. 75% of all emerging infectious diseases are coming from animals or animal products. 2.7 million human deaths each year due to diseases from animals. Those are some alarming statistics, aren't they? Yeah, I agree. But what is causing these numbers? We're going to learn a little bit more about that in some subsequent lessons that we do. The next part of this infographic are the world's first lab-grown beef burger. So what I want you to do with a partner, I want you to read this information from the world's first lab-grown beef burger, as well as why lab made meat, and then we'll come back together for the lab cultivation, and then we'll talk about some other things about layering your writing. So with a partner, read this next two sections together and write down some ideas that you guys have about the information that is presented to you. All right. I'm sure you guys had some fantastic thoughts. You've read through this information. I am going to go back just a little bit. This lab cultivation piece, it uses less energy, less greenhouse gases, and less land. It says 98% less land, and I want you to think about that. You guys are smart enough to know that when you have a lab, how much earth, space, square footage is that taking versus how many square feet does a cow need, or a goat or a pig? How much square footage do they need in order to be successful? So think about that, and that is it really, do you believe that it's 2% versus 98%? But that's up to you to decide. All right, now, as promised, I told you that we're going to do this thing called layering your writing. So you have ingested, love that pun, right? You've ingested this information about lab-grown meat. You have a little bit of text, and then you have this infographic. You've learned a little bit about why lab-grown meat is necessary in society. So now I want you to begin layering your writing. So take that first piece of paper that you did your quick write on this morning, where you gave your first thoughts. I want you to draw a line, and then I want you to write the title to this article, Interesting Facts About Lab-Grown Meat. And then I want you to give your new thoughts, because now you've been presented with new information. So I want you to write those thoughts down underneath where your original thoughts are. And think about the following sentence stems as you do your next layer of writing. So the infographic or a particular quote makes you question or wonder. Is there something that you question about a thought that you originally had, and now this has given you a different perspective, and now you have some things that you're wondering about or you question? So write that down, and you are welcome to use this sentence stem. After reading, I am now thinking. So maybe at first you heard the term lab-grown meat and you were going, oh my gosh, that's so disgusting, I can't even think about that. But then you hear about the need and why these companies have started producing lab-grown meat, and maybe you're re-guessing, you're rethinking what your original thoughts were. So you may change your perspective. Write down why, what are your new thoughts and why. And lastly, if you want to confirm what you were already thinking, if this article confirms what you were saying originally, then you say, just as I was thinking earlier, and then you give your reasons why. And this is called layering your writing. So you had your initial thought, And now we've read this article and we're adding one more layer to that writing. And we're going to read 3 more articles. And so we're going to continue layering your writing and layering your thoughts. That is all that I have for today. That's the end. And so I want you to continue layering those thoughts and thinking about the process of, or the reason for, lab-grown meat. But until tomorrow, happy reading and happy writing.